bearing on the decisions we make as a governing body. It just doesn't.
It's not about how they get along. It's about what are they doing during the day while they're on the clock collecting a paycheck. How many calls do they get?
But
And what I was saying is, I wasn't saying leave the township open for liabilities.
No, hold on a second. What you're saying is the supervisory staff aren't supervising the personnel. If somebody's not doing work, if somebody's not meeting the requirements of their contract, okay, it's up to the people responsible for supervision to correct that problem. What you're identifying is there's a problem in personnel. Okay, somebody's not supervising. What are they doing? What is their job? You know, they were hired to do X, Y, and Z. As a governing body, we have a township manager. We, as a governing body, hold Mr. Schultz responsible for the management of the town. If you're identifying what you believe to be a problem with personnel, be clear. Identify the name, date, and time of the specific problem, and we'll address it with the manager. That's all we can do. If there's somebody being paid and they're not doing the job they were assigned to do, I'm limited as to how I can address that. And again, I don't think that it's a matter of that's what's happening and that's where we're losing our money and we're going to save money by, disciplining or getting rid of somebody. I don't think that's the issue.
It's not about disciplining anybody, you're just getting rid of, I'm saying, how many calls do they get a day? And when some volunteers do respond during the day, the truck's already gone. They can't get on a truck.
There are other trucks there.
Most of them are already out.
But isn't that the point of the paid fire?
Right, but what I'm saying is, like I said, next year bring them back, the following year bring them back, whatever the case may be, but this year we can't afford them.
Last year-
$15 an hour, offer a couple of guys to cover the day shifts, so the volunteers can pick up. Make them sign something saying, yes, these are my hours. The chief, I don't know who's chief in 252, but 251 and all that. Have them set up a schedule. These are part-time guys. They were offered $15 an hour. These are your hours. You have to be here to cover the daytime. And then the volunteers do weekends and nights. You know what? I'm done. I put it out there. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's on you.
1,247 calls
During the day.
last year. I don't know. I haven't broken that down. I'm breaking that down now.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to know, on their shift, how many, and then other than that, what exactly are they doing? I'm not saying, I'm not going there. I'm not, you know what, because I'm going to start throwing shit around here.
Between requirements to do vehicle checks, other things of that nature, there is an element of paid fire that once they go through all that, they're responding, they're waiting for the next call. That's not just Medford Township, that's a paid fire service.
Okay, now how about shared services? Fueling, $300,000 we've had for fuel, yes? Shared services, Medford Township Public Schools. We did it years ago.
Where are we going to save the money on fuel?
The school helps pay for it.
All my shared services with gas, the town pays what it spends in fuel. The school's not going. The government puts out a bid for fuel costs. You get that rate, the government rate, and in the towns where we've had either a joint facility with the Board of Ed or in Morristown, for example, we shared the facility with Mount Laurel. We still were billed our actual fuel consumption. You don't share the fuel consumption.
How about like mechanics?
I'm talking
something like that.
I'm talking to we outsource some. I'm talking to Lumberton does a lot of shared services with their fleet maintenance. I don't agree with the way they do it because they do it by pecking order. So if Medford agreed to go to Lumberton, if they had a car, if their police car was out of service, and we have police car out of service, they're working on their service. I'm trying to convince them to look at what I call a regional model. It's no different than if you go to Pep Boys.
Right.
You get there, you call, here's your work order, we're doing these number of oil changes. Don't matter whether it's Lumberton's car first, Mount Holly's Car First, it's a regional shop. But again, this governing body can talk to other towns. We can't necessarily make other towns do things they don't want to do. That's part of the dilemma with shared services in New Jersey. You have home rule, and communities don't necessarily want to go down that path yet.
And actually, well, believe me, we hear what you're saying. I recognize what you're saying. There's going to come a point in time, and there's a very big push right now at the state level and the county to make Medford Township go away. Okay? We're gonna transfer everything to the county. They are writing legislation as we speak. They are meeting routinely, daily, to figure out how to write laws that say, you can no longer do that, we're gonna do it at this level. Okay? What you're asking for in the way of, you're gonna get this or you're gonna volunteer to do it, a lot of that is people are working daily to get that, to take that out of our hands. Okay? The centralization of power or control shifted from the municipality to the county and or the state, is something that we're limited in fighting back on or pushing back on. The same way what you're saying in regards to the firefighters or shared services, you're limited on the impact that you have on this governing body simply because we're looking at the whole picture and not just one area. Firefighters being that one area. Vehicle maintenance. You've got vehicles owned by the police department or used by the police department. You've got vehicles owned by public works. You've got vehicles owned by the staff. At some point, we could certainly go and get shared services for everything. But the cost savings in shared services is this much. Everybody says, shared services, you're going to save all this. No, you don't. You really don't. The cost savings is minuscule. The reason everybody wants you to do it is so we can centralize that power at the county and state level. Believe me, it's happening. It's happening. I'm sorry. It doesn't solve the problem. What else do you have, Terry, specifically? Anyone else?
Usually never do this, but Bill Reeves, 9 Dakota Trail. First of all, I appreciate this is all new for you guys. We're at the point where we're counting pencils, basically a bankrupt company, and it's nice to see you guys have actually gone through it and you're trying to find $3 million. Now it's only down to $500,000, but it's another month, then we have to add another $100,000 for the sanitation. So you're gonna have to raise taxes. That's just gonna have to happen. One way or the other, whether it's this year or next year, taxes are gonna get up. The people before just kicked the can down. They just wanted to stay in power and do whatever they like to do. So now you're in a situation, how do we tell the public? Like I came in because I heard about the trash and the police officer and was to see what they have to say, because obviously, you guys got elected to kind of change things, become more transparent, let us know. A little disappointed that there's like 9 of us. And I was like, oh no, it's going to be late and it's going to be full. But don't let that discourage you from a standpoint. There's a couple comments about, well, we don't want to do this because we'll be defeated or no one will show up. You shouldn't be like that. You should be positive about where you're going. This is your first step. This is the first attempt to do it. So you shouldn't think, the referendum will fail because oh my God, it's 20%, or we shouldn't have a meeting at Shawnee because no one will show up. You shouldn't be like that. Don't let that, they'll just use that against you. You got to be kind of above it and trust that once the public is informed, that they'll make right decisions. When you get to police officers or public safety, one of the things you have to look about your governing body, what's the responsibility of you guys? What is it? What are the priorities? Is it public safety? Those are the type of things that and when you zero base your budget, how do you go forward? what's most important. When you mention, like for me, I'll talk about fire. It's like fire. You only need it when you need it, and that's the thing. You pay for that. No, it's like smoke detector. Oh, it's only, when it goes off, that's when you need it. Or when you get robbed, I need a police officer. Or I'm in a car accident where some, I expect something to happen. If you start messing with the fire service, who takes the burden? Usually the police officers, right? They're the first ones to respond. And if you have less, that means you're asking them to do more, or does less service happen? How do you come across? How do you come about the cuts when it comes to public safety? Is there a formula where, based on a population, that we only need 4, or since we have no crime, we don't need anybody? But that's because crime's happening, no one's detecting it. So how much revenue do we lose if we have 1 police officer as opposed to 20? How many things happen in, like, fire departments? They also can do fire checks and fire inspections to make sure things don't, like preventative things that'll prevent large-scale fires in buildings and things like that. So how do you come up with that number?
On the fire side, I use OSHA standards and NFPA standards, Occupational Safety Health and National Fire Protection. And there, I said earlier, there's a minimum called 2 in, 2 out, so you have to have 4 to do structural firefighting. If you don't have that, then the house, your defensive tactic, the house is going to burn down. So, because you can't go in and attack the fire unless you meet those requirements. Police, I typically refer to the police. They're, the huge population sometimes is drive, I know, and I don't want to speak for the chief, but some departments use metrics on how, a domestic call, how many officers it takes to handle a domestic call, and how long those officers are out of service, and how you're going to cover the town while those officers are out of service, things of that nature. To my knowledge, and the chief can chime in, I don't know of any one standard for police. That, again, I defer to him on a lot of things. And Ms. Palmer, right, wrong, challenges me about how many officers. I'll be honest with you, I would not be comfortable with any more cuts in the police department. I've made my recommendation, and it's on the lower end, but where I made the recommendation, I made the recommendation. If council said we want more labor, I'm probably going to have to go deal with it elsewhere.
It's not like you're looking at, like, say, a business will look at full-time head count and say, well, we need 20% cut.
Well, some of it's statutorily driven. Again, the government is required in this form, required to have a clerk, required to have an assessor, required to have a collector. There's statute. You shall have this position. It doesn't say how we have it, but you have to have it. So right now, we're sharing a service with Medford Lakes for a tax collector. We're sharing a service with Lumberton for zoning office. It's reduced service levels, but we're sharing that person. Can we share police, fire, You can share, those things you can share, but it's typically government's role in New Jersey because there's no private element, there's no private market in substitution of the police, so it becomes a government function. And you're right, $8 million of our budget last year for police, fire, and EMS. I always say this, how many people are ever going to call 911? You're paying for the ability to have it. You may never, ever spend taxes to ever call it and use it, but you want to have it available to you.
You need it when you need it.
That's right. So, I don't know if the chief has any comments.
Just to get a little more depth in the question on how many do you need, there's a couple different models out there. There's the Bureau of Statistics and the FBI have different models, and they base it on population. Bureau of Statistics says for every 1,000 residents, you should have 2 police officers. There's another organization out there that says it should be 1.5 for every 1,000 residents. So just for simple math, 23,000 residents, we should have 46 police officers. With these cuts, we'll be down to 28. The more realistic approach is what is called the Northwestern School of Police and Command Leadership. What they do is they take on your consumed time. They take your call volume, the times that you're called, and the amount of time your officers are spent on it. For example, 20 years ago, domestic violence call, police officer went out there and said, you knock it off, and you went on your way. Today, because of legal mandates and things that we have to do, a domestic violence call with arrest on average will tie up 2 officers for roughly 4 hours. So when you look at the amount of time that those officers are on there, plus the time that they're scheduled off, their vacation time, that gives you a more realistic idea of what the police department for that town, what their call line is, and where those police officers should adjust. How many minutes should be used for patrol time? How much time should be allocated to answering calls? So you go into that, and if you use certain models out there, if you have 40 minutes of an hour, your officers are tied up. They're answering calls, they're handling the public, and 20 minutes of that is patrol, stopping cars, motor vehicle enforcement, all that type of things. Again, we should be somewhere in the mid-30s if we use that model. Again, if you want to go 30 minutes and 30 minutes of allocated versus unallocated, again, we're upward. We should be upward somewhere pushing 40. That's the more realistic when you take in your call line and the amount of time our officers are actually tied up answering calls.
Thanks.
Now that's, the chief, most of the information he just outlined is available online, and it's based on the
Staffing's not on there.
the staffing.
That was part of work.
Yeah, but broad brush, the staffing study he provided kind of outlines it, identifies exactly what he's talking about, okay? When you talk about public safety, because we have less officers than some of the models indicate, does that mean we're at higher risk or people are going to be hurt? Right now, we eliminated local dispatch because it was a duplication of service. Everything gets dispatched to the county. If the county gets 5 calls in the evening from Medford Township and we have less than 5 officers to respond, what's the county going to do? Are they going to simply not answer the call? No, they're going to dispatch a police officer, based on the emergent condition. You have a report of 5 different shootings, automatic gunfire. What's going to happen? The county's going to send officers from another township. Public safety is going to be impacted, yes. How's it impacted? Somebody's going to be speeding and they're going to be allowed to speed because we don't have enough officers to catch every single speeder. Okay? We don't have that now. Even at 40, we don't have that. If we went to 80, we wouldn't have that.
You get 2,000.
Exactly. And my point is, if you look at it from a broader perspective, yes, for every officer you take off the street, you impact public safety. To what extent?
Well,
it's an unknown.
My main question was basically, when you come up with the numbers, there's actually some communication with the people that actually know what they're doing from a standpoint, not that you don't have police to make sure that works out, so it's not like this, we're just going to do it. So it's well thought out. It's a well thought out process.
The chief defends his department based on his experience. I, as the manager, though,
Well, you have to make the bad decision.
with looking at the revenue and how we get there, I unfortunately have to make those calls and recommendations.
The last question, when you guys are looking at, in order to get the budget back to where we wanted it, or say we're comfortable with, is at 20%, 25%. That's a big number to, like, you're right, Randy, if you say it's 25%, everyone's going to go, you're going to have 3,000 people vote no. But it has to be portrayed in a way that it can we can understand that, say, I agree to a 25% tax hike. Does that mean next year it's going to be another 10%?
Well, no.
Then there'll be an issue.
In New Jersey right now, the local government can only increase taxes 2%.
Right, then you have to go to referendum. If
Right.
It's going to go above.
I don't like using percentages because the percentage is typically higher than the actual cents. So, for example, the mayor talked about ESHA. I was in Morristown when Morristown reset its levy to the levy it's at now. It was a 28% tax increase. It was 8 cents. 8 cents sounds a lot better than 28%. But that was the local levy, not the whole budget pie. We are going to run, like I said, we're going to look at 2010 as the last year of full service of what, based on where we were at last year, what that number would mean to give back, just so that.
And that's one way when if you have a meeting at Shawnee, when you talk about, like, what real impact, does it cost me, if we do it cost me $100. All right, it's $100.
Well, see, that's the other part of it, okay? Does it cost you 100 and does it cost somebody else more than 100? Because your property value, your property tax is based on the value of your property.
Right, which we're waiting for the.
Okay, well, I have people that come to me and say, I pay $40,000 a year in taxes. I pay enough to get my trash picked up, and you're gonna pick up my trash. Well, if I say it's 8 cents, okay, it's 8 cents of the assessed value of their home. Again, it's not, if I could come up with one paragraph or one sentence that makes it palatable for everybody, I would do that. The public is not interested in 4.5 hours of discussion on the budget. They don't have 4.5 hours and they're not going to dedicate it. They want the answer and they want it, you know, you got less than 30 seconds to convince us.
We would give them an average. We would say the township average is 200,000, which is what it is now, 200,000 assessment. Here's what your impact would be, and then you can figure it out on your own. If my house is assessed at $1 million, okay, now I'm going to pay 5 times that.
And you would be willing to, I'll just hire waste management.
But
to pick up my trash.
that's why there's an attractiveness to a fee structure on at least the public works side. Everybody would be paying the same fee, and it wouldn't be based on your assessed value. The problem is compelling everybody
To go that way.
And we'll look at that more, but that would be a flat model, a flat fee model.
Fee structure is something that's really attractive.
Right.
If we can compel everyone to do it, which as of now legally we don't.
And we have to give less to Burlington County.
Well,
Oh, we still got to dump our trash there, unfortunately.
there was a model, real quickly, I'll stop after that. Last year, there were 20 communities that were looking at what's called the Municipal Regional Residential Trash Service System, where you went beyond jurisdiction and it was based on efficiency of pickup. So if you lived down in Centennial area and that truck was half full, it would go out, make a left and go into Little Mill in Evesham and finish so that the route was more efficient than the pickup, and it was a regional approach. Unfortunately, with some of the things we deal with, one town at the last minute decided, the town that was supposed to go first decided to go a different direction, and it killed the whole model. I still think it has relevance, but it kind of blew up that years of studying it, and it's frustrating because I believe in that model. I think that model would have worked. And in New Jersey, you got to tear down those barriers to get in there. And eventually, like the mayor said, there are bills that are going to force town, or at least bills drafted that say Medford and Medford Lakes, at some point, we're going to force something. How that gets...
You're going to combine, or we're going to make it financially uncomfortable for you not to do so.
We're going to cut your state aid, whatever state aid you're getting. You're not going to get it.
And I said it before, I would much rather, you know, let Medford Township manage its pensions. Let us go into a 401k and manage it just as a private business would. But the state, like our federal government, uses the pension money to do other things with. We're in their healthcare system, and you know, the employees that are here, I'm trying to get out of it. I don't trust the state after 15 years of managing this money. If this body's going to hold me accountable, then let me be accountable to you, not the regulation. I'm stuck by regulation. I'm going to be held accountable to something I had no control over. That's my soapbox. Sorry.
The public can expect that once, if in fact we went to referendum and did that full-blown increase, the public could expect that going forward from there, that the increases would be at or below the 2% for the foreseeable future. That's a bet. Certainly people feel a little bit more comfortable, but again, it's right at this point, it is.
Stability and credibility.
Can I say something? I think another reason the referendum went down last year had nothing to do, it had to do with people were mad at the previous council. And a lot of people voted with their hatred, or emotions, rather, I shouldn't use that word, but they were upset. And most people didn't even read it, they just went out and said, we're gonna send a message to this group. And I don't think you guys are getting the same message. And I really think, we can work this out.
It's a good point. There's truth to it.
As you gain credibility and trust, and
There's a lot of people I felt that was trusted this one.
Like I said, we'll do anything, I'm gonna know on your street, we'll do anything to help you guys, you gotta get the council. And I think that's what we all want to do. Because people are mad.
There's a lot of people who don't pay the attention that people here this morning had. There's 25, 23,000 residents, and not everybody pays attention.
Well, I
Don't
think
even
that I
know
was
who the
one of
government
them,
is.
I was, but I see where you are, and I think where you are, and you gotta, you're gonna get changed.
Anyone else?
Motion to close the.
I have a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment portion is closed. Any last more, by the way? Tuesday, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. I have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Opposed?